Macedonia, a small Balkan country that hardly anyone knows, with its own traditions, inhabitants and stories. Dazzling, between mysticism and modernity, where people celebrate love and try to preserve their treasures. Mavrovo National Park, in the secluded mountain village of Galichnik, peace and quiet will soon be over. Once a year, the village spruces itself up for a very special event, and she is the leading actress in this hustle and bustle. Tanya Lepchenska is the bride, the chosen one who will be married tomorrow in the traditional Galichnik wedding. She's on the way to her parents' house. For Tanya, a childhood dream is coming true.
I have been dreaming about this since I was 5 years old. Last year, when my brother got married here, I was in tears. I don't know if that will happen to me at my wedding, but I will definitely be very excited when it starts.
It's not Tanya's decision alone to get married here. Every year, the village community selects only one bride and groom to be married according to regional rites. The prerequisite? The ancestors must come from the village. Tanya's family grew up here, and her grandmother helps the brides into the traditional costume every year. But before the wedding here in the mountains, we look to Rosoman in the lowlands. We visit the capital, Skopje, and the legendary Ohrid Lake. Rosoman, in the heart of northern Macedonia. It's September, harvest time. For small farmer Vesna Janevska and the rest of the family, a staple food is harvested: peppers.
Everyone gets a bucket. Go into the rows one by one. Nice and slow, no hurry.
Vesna makes her speciality from the peppers, ayvar. The puree is a cultural asset of the region, and it has to feed the whole family.
In order for the family to live for a year, we have to harvest 2 to 3 tons of paprika. I can make 1,000 jars of ayvar from them, and that provides us with an average Macedonian income of €200 a month. With that, we can live reasonably well. That is, by Macedonian standards.
Her husband Tony actually works as a night watchman, but the salary is not enough to support the family. So they need a good harvest. But this summer the weather was crazy.
I am not satisfied this year. The peppers have ripened too early from the strong sun. The quality is not so good. First, strong sun and then a lot of rain. They have gone bad in just 1 week. We will have to throw many away.
Even now in late summer, the temperatures here are often over 35 degrees. Starting at noon, it makes field work tedious. Vesna grows peppers, eggplants and chili, everything that is needed for a traditional ajvar. There are a few sunflower seeds for snacking. In Galichnik, the wedding village in the mountains, preparations are underway for the big celebration, even if you don't notice much of it yet. In the summer months, about 70 people live here. In winter, almost no one. Pavle runs a small restaurant in the village centre. His wife Bora is in charge of the kitchen. It has always been like that. Apart from that, a lot has changed here.
This is a picture of Galichnik from the 1930s. At that time, there were 900 houses here, and more than 6,000 people lived here. We also had over 100,000 sheep. Unfortunately, today, nothing is like it was then.
First, the sheep disappeared, then the people. In the times of communist-planned economy, the village died out. Soon nothing remained of the glorious past.
At that time, we even had a theatre and a cinema here. Our cinema was more beautiful than the one in Skopje. It was nothing compared to ours. It was one hell of an experience back then.
In the 70s, Pavle had to move to the capital with his family to earn money. The homesickness remained.
That was really bad. I cried when we left the village. And I said to my wife, "Dear wife, when our children grow up, we will both come back here." And that's what we did.
Even at age 75, Pavle still has plans for the future, together with the next generation.
I am happy that my grandchildren want to work here. They have a comfortable life in the capital, Skopje, but I told them, you won't get any support from Grandpa for that. But here in Galichnik, always.
Skopje is only 2 hours away from Galichnik. There is work there. In Galichnik, only hunting. The lonely mountain village doesn't really offer any prospects for young people. Pavle's grandson Marko wants to try it here anyway. He organizes mountain bike tours to attract guests to the mountains. This way, he wants to bring Galichnik back to life. In Skopje, Marko works in an office, but he likes this much better.
The best thing about my project is that I can show my guests the beauty of this country, and when they leave, they take home wonderful memories of nature, the Mavrovo National Park and Galichnik. I really enjoy being in nature. There are also some mountains near Skopje, but this one is one of the greatest treasures we have in Macedonia.
If Marko has his way, he will show this treasure to many more visitors. But will he ever be able to make a living from it? Northern Macedonia is one of the poorest countries in Europe. Unemployment is 23%. If you want to make ends meet here, you have to be enterprising. Like Vesna, she wants to sell homemade specialities at the local market.
Today we have to make at least 20 jars of ayva. I hope we have collected enough peppers for that. On my own, that would take me 2 days. But on weekends, the family can help. Then we can do it in 1 day.
Husband Tony also makes himself useful. The ayva is boiled down for hours. The exact recipe? A family secret.
I inherited it from my mother and mother-in-law, but my ayva is the best anyway, because I make it with a lot of love, and because I like this work.
Now Vesna has to stir until the evening. Only then will you know whether the ayva is good.
Wait. It's great.
Success. 25 glasses have been made. They call it a day with a family ritual. Will their ayva make the money they hope for? "80 kilometers further south, close to the border with Greece, lies the Gevgelia train station. For ages, it has been the realm of station master Bodchenikov.
It is quite stressful. There can be up to 12 trains a day, and they can even arrive more or less at the same time. Then there is really a lot going on. But it's an interesting job, and luckily I have 35 years of experience in this profession.
When he started, Macedonia was part of the Yugoslav Republic. That was a long time ago. But Bodche doesn't like change anyway. Now he has to put up with another one. The name dispute with Greece, where there is also a Macedonia, ended with his country now being called North Macedonia. In Bodche's control centre, however, the communist past still exists. He's the only one who can operate this system.
With this device, I manage all the work at the station. Here I see the tracks for the trains coming from the north and the south, from the first to the 6th track. I handle the trains that come here from Greece and push them on to the north. Of course, it depends on whether we have a locomotive here at all.
Locomotives are still scarce in northern Macedonia. The fast train to Skopje has arrived. Nevertheless, Bodche does not let himself be rushed. This is his station. He sets the pace.
I have always fed my family this way. My children have grown up during this time, and I still like this work as much as on the first day.
The train to Skopje crosses the country from south to north in 2.5 hours. The train driver has also had his job for more than 30 years.
There are many railroad lines in Macedonia, but this one is the fastest, from Gevgelija to Skopje.
From the rural south, it runs 100 kilometers north towards the capital. along the Vardar River, the country's lifeline. Meanwhile, in Skopje, Alexander the Great, King of Macedonia, sits high on his horse. The last government had the cityscape reshaped in what was described as a beautification campaign. The centre thus became corny. The socialist architecture was to disappear behind pseudo-antique pomp. The reconstruction is said to have cost the cash-strapped country more than 600 million euros. According to critics, some of this money was spent on dubious deals. Beyond the city's oldest bridge, on the other side of the river, lies the real past. But even here in the old town, change is palpable. In this street, for example, there used to be one blacksmith next to the other. Today, mobile phone stores. Surviving with ancient crafts in the modern capital. That's what Ibrahim Zakir and his son Mehmet are trying to do here. They're the last blacksmiths in the neighbourhood. Customers still come.
People try to do everything themselves, like sharpening the axe, but it has to be done professionally, and they can't do it themselves. Then they throw the axe away and buy a new one.
For decades, the craft has been practiced in the family, but they get less and less money for the sweaty work.
It is really very difficult. You see it, we work with heavy equipment and fire, and it's also dangerous.
Ibrahim is at retirement age. At 70 years old, he soon won't be strong enough, but he can't afford to stop.
This axe here costs 200 denarii, which is about 3 euros, and we also have material costs. But the biggest problem is that we don't have a successor. We haven't found an apprentice since 1990. No one wants to do the apprenticeship anymore. This craft will die out.
In this family too, because Mehmet himself also wishes his son a better future.
He is 18 years old and is studying medicine. Why should I put him through this work? I didn't want him to become a blacksmith.
Ibrahim is Roma and a Muslim. He's getting ready for prayer at the mosque. In multi-ethnic northern Macedonia, 1/3 of the inhabitants are Muslims. About 2/3 are Christian Orthodox.
All religions pray to one God. That's the way it is. I want us all to be one. We are equal before God. When we sit in a row here, there is no difference between us either. Here, the rich and the poor are the same. There is no difference.
The common prayer is important. Even the kebab store is closed when it's time for muezzin. Back in Mavrovo National Park. Pavle has a lot to do today, fortunately. This weekend's sales will determine how well he and his wife will make it through the year.
Today is much busier than usual. That only happens twice a year. Tomorrow there will be 2,000, 3,000 people here, but during the winter there are only two of us, me and Grandma.
He organizes the event.
Draghi, you can't do that, you're blocking everything. My cell phone has been ringing continuously for 10 days, from 8 in the morning until late at night. Very often, two people call at the same time, and I have missed many calls.
Just before the official start, 3,000 visitors from all over North Macedonia have come to see the spectacle. Traditions have a high value in this small country. Bride Tanya presents herself in the regional costume. She knows every detail.
This is the bodice. This is the doublet. This is called futa. Underneath, I wear a dress with Galičnik embroidery. Over the hair, the headscarf, shamia. This is the costume for the poorer girls. It is 100 to 150 years old.
Some time together for the bride and groom before the hustle and bustle starts. Meanwhile, the mayor is already on his way again. There's still a lot to do. The horses at the riding club have to be prepared for the wedding. Alexander knows them all by name.
This is Mimi. She will carry the bride's dowry, from the bride's house to the groom's house. Then, when the bride is no longer wearing her maid's outfit, but the bridal gown, she will ride to her groom's house on this horse.
And then the time has come. A real storm of customs and music breaks out in Galičnik. A wedding with 30 rituals over 2 days. Everyone is allowed to celebrate, except the bride. The actual wedding ceremony is tomorrow. Market day in Rosoman. Vesna has to sell her homemade ajvar today to earn money for the next week. Today is Sunday, but she doesn't know days off. Every week, Vesna stands at the local market on the thoroughfare, hoping for customers. Competition is plentiful. Rosoman is mostly home to small farmers. They all earn their living with vegetables and homemade specialities. Vesna's mother also still sells here.
This is my mom. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law has already passed away. I learned the recipes from both of them. I also pass on the knowledge to my daughter, and she should show it to her children.
So far, it's not going well for Vesna. Still no customer for her ajvar. Maybe it will help to lower the price.
Because it is my first day, I can give you 2 jars for 500 dinars. Buy some bread and cheese with it, and you have your lunch.
A hard bargain, but Vesna's market day must pay off today.
I hope to sell 10 jars. Ayva season has just started, so I don't know if I can do it today. But I will give it my all.
A tour bus with tourists from Serbia arrives. Are they keen on Macedonian Ayva? And suddenly business is booming. Vesna has already sold 12 jars. At times like this, she dreams of greater things.
If I had money, I would start a cooperative, especially with other women. Only hardworking people would work in this small business, and I would pay them well. I like it when a team sticks together and people have fun, without any difficulties or cheating. I want everyone to build their future together.
Build a future. Not easy in a country that suffers from poverty and corruption. Today the market day was successful. 12 hours of hard work are over, and the Ayva season has just begun. But every evening she sees that it's worth it.
Да сме живи и здрави, од година повеќе на број, да имаме и снашка. Други внучиња уште.
Lake Ohrid in the southwest of the country. It's not only the largest lake in northern Macedonia, but also a naval base. The Macedonian Navy, in a country without a sea. Today is a briefing, even though there's not much to do. But a patrol is always good, and soldier Alexander is indispensable on board.
During today's voyage, I am the acting captain. I am responsible for saving lives on the boat and for fire protection. All tasks are complex, but I try to carry them out to the best of my ability.
Секоја задача си има своја комплексност и се обидувам да ги извршам во целост сите.
All that's left is for the ship to cooperate. It's a remnant of the Yugoslavian armed forces. It has to be kept in working order in case of an emergency. Inspection trip on Lake Ohrid. The border with Albania runs through the lake. One-third of the water belongs to the neighbouring country. Captain Zoran Kostowski keeps an eye on everything.
Our crew is ready around the clock to rescue boats and people if necessary, or even to transport goods and people on the lake.
The actual tasks of the Navy have been taken over by the water police for years, including the controls on the border with Albania. Alexander still likes to serve in the army.
This is a tradition in our family. My father also wore a uniform, as did my brother. And I have been a soldier for 18 years.
Coffee break instead of gunboat. Probably the smallest navy in the world is also the most peaceful. Return to the shore. Here lies the small town of Ohrid. It's considered the most beautiful pearl of northern Macedonia. And here lives a family that has created a myth. Legend has it that an enigmatic Russian came to Ohrid in the 20s with a special recipe in his luggage. Today, Mihailo Filevi is considered the keeper of this secret. He needs these fish for it. The Russian is said to have told Filevi's great-grandfather how a tincture made from their scales gives pearls a miraculous shine.
The secret recipe is not written down. I have to focus to make this emulsion. It's a tradition that's almost 100 years old. My great-grandfather started it. Then my grandfather and father continued it. I am now the fourth generation to know the secret. Of course, it is a challenge for me, but out of respect, I continue the family tradition.
Filevi refines cultured pearls that he buys cheaply in Asia. Not all are flawless.
This is an example of a deformation we can't control. It is a mistake of nature. We do not take such pearls. For further processing, we only take the best quality.
The Ohrid pearl is praised here as a kind of cultural treasure. Even Queen Elizabeth has worn it. With so much fame, however, there are also imitators.
Others also use the name Ohrid Pearl and make themselves liable to prosecution. We always tell tourists to be careful. Anyone can forge a certificate on a computer. But the real certificates are issued only by the Filevi family.
This is how fairy tale marketing works in Macedonia. As long as the tourists are enthusiastic about the jazzed-up pearls, they feed the inhabitants of Ohrid. In any case, the old glamour of the place is real. Ohrid is a World Heritage Site. Next stop, the Hydrobiological Institute in Ohrid. Dušica Ilić examines fish that exist only here. Without her help, the Ohrid trout would have died out long ago. This fish is a much sought-after delicacy. For decades, people fished as much as they could from the lake, with nets or dynamite. That's why biologists now take trout out of the lake, ready to spawn, every year, to raise millions of small offspring from the eggs. This ensures the continuation of the population. Dušica checks her trout babies every day.
This year the fish are in very good condition. They all weigh around 4 grams. They haven't had any feed since yesterday, so they are hungry. There's a lot of plankton in the lake right now, so they can feed well there.
The perfect time to release the little Ohrid trout in the lake.
This is a great moment. For 9 months we have been working on raising the fish, and now we are taking the children to their parents, so to speak. We have already returned the mother and the father to the lake. Now the offspring is also coming back. This is of course very nice for us.
The valuable cargo is transported to the harbour basin. Biologist Zoran Spirkovsky is already waiting. Whether the mission will work out is questionable every time.
We have to safely take the fish to a certain place in the lake. It is about 7 kilometers away from here. For this, we have calculated a travel time of 1 hour with this ship. In the tank, we increase the amount of oxygen so that the fish do not suffer during the transport. But there is always a risk that not all the fish will make it, because, as I said, the journey is long.
Out on the lake with the research vessel. The otherwise calm waters are as rough as the sea today. A storm is brewing. Will the small Ohrid trout gain their freedom today? Let's see. But even if they do, they're never out of danger.
The biggest problem is the sustainability and survival of the fish in the lake. That's why we have to work on people's awareness to take care of them. Because the fish that we release here in the lake today take 7 years to reach a weight of 1 kilogram.
And the young fish, which have been bred with great effort, are unfortunately often fished out again faster than they can reproduce. Some trout still get into the water today, but then the weather throws a spanner in the works. Back to the harbour basin. In the mountain village of Galichnik, the mood is heading towards the climax. The most important part of the wedding ceremony begins. The procession sets off to pick up the bride, Tanya.
I am very excited. This is the last moment before I see my bridegroom.
The bride has to walk the way to the church on a horse. She must not stumble, otherwise it would mean great misfortune. The Orthodox faith also plays an important role for many young North Macedonians. The wedding ceremony brought a rush of emotions for Tanya.
It was like a big dream which I have had since I was a very young girl. This wedding is something I always wanted. And if I had another chance, I would marry like this again. But unfortunately, it only happens once. And it's over so quickly. It's a lot of hours, but to me it seems very short. I am happy that I get to experience these magical moments.
The Macedonians are known for their rowdy weddings, but Galichnik tops everything. Once again, the party goes on until the wee hours of the morning. The storm has subsided at Lake Ohrid. The biologists start a new attempt to get their fish into the water.
When the weather is calm, as it is now, these are of course better conditions. This way we can follow the fish and see if they immediately swim into the depths of the lake. They know their way, but this gives us additional security.
For Dušica, it's now time to say goodbye.
We have taken care of them for 9 months. It is like taking care of a child. And there is not only one child, but lots.
Through a tube, the little trout are released into the wild. Apparently, all of them survived the trip. The mission has succeeded. Preserving nature, a life task for Dušica.
It is a great gift to work and live in this wonderful place. We are done with our task for today. But a human life is too short to protect the trout and to help the lake stay usable for the next generations. It is our work to teach the others to protect the lake and enjoy it in all its beauty.
Lake Ohrid, one of the greatest treasures of northern Macedonia. It will take many more like Dušica to preserve it. From the endangered natural paradise, it takes 3 hours to reach the capital. Skopje shows its romantic side. On the fortress, couples meet to watch the sunset. The bride and groom from Galičnik also like to come here. Tanya and Slatko live in Skopje. They're married now. Time for the next adventure.
We will start a family and probably live here. If we do go somewhere else, the love for Macedonia will stay forever, for sure.
Their love for this small, very special spot on the world map, North Macedonia.